What is up, world? This is Cam coming at you with the Shepherds of Men and the Movement Podcast. We're pumped to be here today. I'm here with my brothers, as always, Wilson.
What's up?
And JP.
Hey, guys.
And the man, the myth, the producer, founder, and all those other great things of Ranked Productions. Oh. Whoop, whoop. He's silent over there.
This keeps getting better. Are we going to call him Papa Smurf now?
You can't hear through his beard.
Smurf.
You can't hear through his beard.
We can't call you Papa Smurf?
We should do it.
No, Odin, I think, was one of them.
Odin.
Oh, yeah.
I like
Odin.
Odin.
Okay. All
Odin's a
right.
good
I
one.
always called him Odin's son
Yeah.
because of his last name.
Not like Danielson. So it's a really special day for us today, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. But real quick, as we're getting started, want to make sure everybody's aware of how to stay in touch with us, how to keep track of what's going on with the movement, with Shepherds of Men in general. And there is a lot of great things coming down the pipe that we're going to talk about here soon. But you can find us online, shepherdsof.men. Obviously, we've got links to all of our platforms there with Instagram, Facebook, all the above. Anchor FM is our main platform for our podcast, but it gets distributed through
Everything.
Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever you prefer, it's there. And we are grateful for O making that happen. So gear, events, lots of other things. We have had literally last week, I guess, we met with some folks about some potential book action. We might be meeting with some other folks about that. So we're going to talk about that all too. So tonight, we are also joined in the studio by an incredibly special guest that a lot of you have heard of and the world is starting to hear more and more of. In my opinion, the next big thing in the world of personal coaching. We've had a chance to sit in recently at a boot camp with Coach Micheal Burt, and through that connection, we have now been able to con him into coming into our studio and actually gaining some of his time to benefit us and you guys. So welcome, Coach Burt. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the compliment, man. It's a long grind that a lot of people don't see. And, the coaching business is not an easy business. It's a tough business, right? You're dealing with people and their life and their emotions and their breakdowns and breakthroughs. And so for 28 years, man, this is all I've been doing is coaching people since I was a kid. So a lot of people see where I am today, and I'm nowhere where I would like to be, right? I mean, I look at the greats, the Coveys, the Maxwells, the Tony Robbins, and that's ultimately my dream, is to be that big, is to impact that many people. So, but it ain't easy getting up every day and trying to get there, right?
Sure.
So I appreciate you giving me the props, man.
Absolutely. Well, if it's easy, everybody would do it, right?
That's right.
Right.
And then you wouldn't have the 1%, or as I heard you say today, the 0.001%.
I was on a roll this morning.
You
man.
were. Yeah.
Something happened yesterday that activated my prey drive. I can't talk
I
about it.
I could see it when you got out of the truck on the video.
But I was on fire today. And, this started the boot camp off on fire. I'm like, man, I don't know if they're ready for this. But it was a great first session.
There were a couple of exclamation points coming over from O. He was there.
100%,
Yeah,
man.
he was
100%.
fired
And you need
up.
that, to be honest with you. You need that. A guy like me is constantly looking for something to give me an edge. And sometimes it's upset, it's anger, it's frustration, it's impediment, it's something keeping me from trying to get to where I'm going. And those are your friends. It doesn't seem like it at the time. Yesterday we had some people get their temperature got a little high on some things, and my temperature got a little high on some things, and I didn't sleep much last night, and I got kind of worked up, but I used it as fuel today. And to benefit, right? And that's good. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
I agree with that 100%. And a little about what we've been doing here for the last year and a half. We've been growing this movement. And really the foundation of it is we are a secular movement, but the three of us at the table are men of faith.
Mm-hmm.
But our purpose is to get the men right. We believe if we get the men right, we get the world right.
Yep.
Right. And we believe we need to do that because there's a alarming deficit of leadership in our country, and men are called and created to be leaders. I mean, that's just the truth. That's our belief. So, we have figured some things out, but we also are still, like you said, growing constantly and understanding what our purpose is. And part of that purpose is bringing other people in, such as yourself, that can continue to deliver a message from your unique perspective and in your field on what you see in men. So, like, one of the things that I wanted to ask as we're getting into this is just in general, and we've asked you not to hold back on here.
Mm-hmm.
So if people get their panties in a wad, that's their fault for listening. In general, what's your assessment of men in our society today?
weak.
Amen.
Yep.
You know, I didn't have. I don't ever like to say negative things about my father. Okay, but my dad had me when he was 18. My mom was 16. They married for 1 year. I think because my grandfather basically said, "You're going to marry."
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to marry this girl. And my dad was never involved in my life. He didn't come to one game, one baseball. And I was a big sports guy. Like I played sports, basketball, baseball. My mom watched every game I ever played. She, you know, even when I coached as a grown man, she didn't miss a game at Riverdale when I was coaching, right? She was a stable factor in my life. But my dad was wild, you know, and he didn't really show me what a man is supposed to be. I didn't really have that, right, growing up. And I didn't realize until I got later in life, man, how that really affected me. Affected my commitment levels. I didn't want to commit for years. You know, I didn't want to get married. I couldn't, man, it just affected me in ways I never imagined. So, and I'm not mad at my dad because we have a good relationship today. He grew up, right, and he's doing the best he can. But I think what I see from men is men need to be leaders. They need to take action. They need to lead the home. And I think sometimes with me and my wife, I'm gone leading a lot of other people. It eats a lot of my bandwidth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get home and I'm tired. And my wife's like, man, I need you to lead here. I need you to step up. I don't want to be the only disciplinarian in our house. I don't want to be the one that's getting on our daughter every time. And so that's a balance. That's a tough fight for me because I'm not leading thousands of people every day, you know, and they just suck energy out of you, right?
Right.
You guys don't suck energy out of me, but but just the reality of my work is I've chosen a path that's like a pastor. You know, to use the word shepherd, I mean, I shepherd a lot of people's potential every day.
Yeah.
Thousands of people. And that means emails and text messages and Instagram messages at 4 a.m. And I've had people call me that are suicidal in the middle of the night. I mean, it's crazy. I've had people that are lost, confused, you know, on drugs. I mean, you name it. And that's what I see every week. It's not always just people coming to my boot camps. I mean, it's literally people lost, confused, down, depressed.
Right.
A guy on my team called me one night, suicidal in the middle of the night. He had a wreck. He was, you know, been drinking. He was about to be arrested. You know, 2:30 in the morning, he's calling me, man. It's like the only person I know to call is you, Coach. So when you take on that is a burden. Almost like a pastor of a church, I can imagine, right? And it's like, man, you're taking on all these people's problems, and it wears on you. So my biggest challenge that I see with men is, man, they go to work, it's hard. They're grinding, they're trying to provide for their families, and then they just don't have any energy left over. So they come home tired, exhausted. They got a wife, they got kids, and that's a constant fight with me. That's why I go to one of the top energy doctors in the world. I'm trying to but no matter how much vitamins I'm on, there's still a lot of emotional energy that is drained out of you every day. And so I'm just working on it. You know, I'm trying to be a better dad. I'm trying to be a better husband. I'm trying to be more present. I'm wired to work. That's who I am. I'm a man I would get up and work 14 hours a day and not even think twice about it. That's just who I am. But I'm trying to do better with my daughter, you know, who really, I feel like I missed a lot of my early daughter's life being on the road, trying to chase my dream. So part of me feels selfish, right? Like I want to be the next Tony Robbins, but that requires me to go on the road. I mean, I was gone for 7 days. And then I come home and my kids are grown, right? So I remember something Garth Brooks said when, you know, if you watch the Garth Brooks special, he talks about him going out being Garth Brooks, and then his daughter said something, and he recognized that the nanny was raising his kids. And he said, I don't even know my kids, man, but I'm about to find out. And to his credit, the dude took 10 years off.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
And stayed home with his kids, which is amazing. So that's the balance I'm trying to do. So men need to lead more. They need to be men, man. They need to be what we're supposed to be.
Well, I think we all agree with that 100%. And that kind of, you know, you talk a lot about recently this concept of prey drive, which is really the opposite of weakness, in my opinion. Can you tell us a little more about that? Like, how is that? Where'd that come from? Where'd that concept come from?
Prey drive came to me when I was sitting in a workshop with a guy named Bob Samara, and nobody would know who Bob Samara is. He's very unknown. He's very obscure. He doesn't want to be known. And he was in the war dog division of the Vietnam War, and his job was to go out every morning with an animal, with a dog, and find bombs, booby traps, ambushes. I mean, imagine waking up in the middle of a jungle and that's your job. So he talked about the psychology of how tough he had to be, and he kept talking about the dog having a prey drive. And so I'm sitting in this workout, this workshop, and I'm like, prey drive, man, I've never heard it like that, like, right? And I'm like, I have this big revelation, and the revelation was, humans have a prey drive. Like, one of the gifts the good Lord gave me is the gift of association, right? And which means I can hear a concept and immediately associate it with another concept. I don't know how. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I read so much. But when he said that, I'm like, that's what I've been doing my whole life, man. I have been activating the prey drive in people. Now I've got a name. It's not just motivating people, right? Like, a lot of people think I'm a motivational speaker, but I'm really a lot more than that. Like I want to activate something deep inside a person. So I was really scripted by Covey, and Covey was a whole person theory. Like, that's who I studied the most: body, mind, heart, spirit. And he talked about latent and undeveloped potential. Like, there's parts of people that's latent. It's never been developed. It's never been activated. And I'm like, that's what I've been doing, man. Since I was a young kid, I've been activating that drive in people. And now I got a name for it, right? So then I went back and, trademarked it.
That's marketable, yeah.
And then I said, like, here's the deal. I can package it. I can codify it. I'm going to write a book on it. I'm going to do websites. Like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be known for. I'm going to be the number one activator of prey drive in the world. And I can't tell you how many people use that concept with me. Man, I need you to activate my prey. Man, you activated my prey drive. Man, you. So it's a spin on a word, right? It's a different association and usage of a word, and that's really where it came from. And then I made up my mind. I'm going to be the number one dude in the world at that.
So how do you do that? Like, how do you activate and react? I've heard you say activate and reactivate, because sometimes people lose it. I mean, we've talked about that in past episodes. Like, you lose your juju or whatever,
Well, it's human nature. And Robert Greene wrote the book, The Laws of Human Nature, and I'm a big studier of human nature, because that's what business I'm in. Why do people act the way they do? Why do good people turn bad? Why do somebody start and be so excited and want to quit the next week? Which is something I see all the time as a coach.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure.
Yep.
Why does a person tell you one day you change their life, the next day they don't want to have anything to do with you? Why? Like, it's just crazy. I mean, what I see, and so I come across this in human nature. Human nature is to start with good intention. The prey drive is activated by something. Then to fall off the wagon. Now, why do we fall off the wagon? Lack of discipline, distraction, too many goals, too many things going on, whatever. No work ethic, want to quit when it gets hard. There's a million reasons why people quit. So we fall off the wagon, we experience guilt. Okay, that is the vicious human cycle. It's no different than me saying, I want to be a good dad. Right? Then it comes time to be a good dad, which requires sacrifice, work, and ethic. You got to work to be a good dad. You got to work to be a good husband. It ain't easy, man, right? It's easy for me to say, man, I miss my wife. Can't wait to get home to see my wife. I want to be such a good husband. Then get home, and now I got to work at it. So what happens is we get excited. We fall off the wagon. We experience guilt. Okay? In my opinion, that is, prey drive is activated, and for some reason it goes dormant, right? And life just beats it out of you, man. You get up every day, and good people disappoint you. And so a lot of people just don't have the resilience, the toughness. Okay, now where does that toughness come from? There's all kinds of studies on this, right? On resilience and toughness. And, I was raised by a tough single mother, and she wouldn't let me miss a day of school growing up. I mean, she's like, tough, man. I mean, we don't whine, we don't complain, we don't make excuses. And that has served me very well, right, in my life. So prey drive, in my opinion, has to be activated every day. So how do you activate it? You go to work on the body, the mind, the heart, the spirit. If you hear, today I taught the group at my workshop is that every day I start by feeding my faith. I listen to a sermon, 15, 20 minutes. Then I work out hard, right, with a coach and a trainer. And then I move to go home and see my family, right, kind of see my kids, my wife, activates my emotional. And then I listen to something on business. And so my prey drive is activated, because I wake up tired just like everybody else does, right? And then it's like, I got to activate my drive, man. And there's a lot of ways I do it. Something new, something fresh, big goals, new group coming into like I'm very active. I travel around the world. So, I get to spend time with a lot of cool people. What y'all are doing is cool. So I get to spend time with people that activate and reactivate my drive a lot. If you're in the same environment, around the same people, doing the same thing, boredom, monotony. There's no way you're going to activate that prey drive, man. You get bored. I was in Houston, Dallas, Scottsdale in the last few days. All these people are moving, shaking. I'm seeing the world. That activates your prey drive. So if you're in a funk, get out of your environment. Go somewhere. And I'll say this about my wife. She understands me. She lets me be Coach Burt. And if I'm in a funk, she'll say, man, go to Florida by yourself.
Wow, honey, are you listening?
Yeah, because a lot of wives wouldn't do this. But like I'm about to write this book on prey drive. And man, I got to have it done by May 31st. That's what my contract with McGraw-Hill says. 65,000 words. That's a lot of words, man. So I'm like, I got to go somewhere and lock myself up. And she's like, go to Florida, go to the mountains, go wherever you got to go. She understands that. I need that. I'm a better husband if I can just spend some time to myself sometimes.
And well, a couple things that I wanted to bring up. One, it was interesting that we just recently did an episode about learning how to speak like an alpha or changing your language. And some of the words that you used were the opposite of having prey drive were bored and tired.
Yep.
And, it just sounds bad,
Yep.
So like you're literally changing your whole mentality and it changes the way you talk or vice versa. The other thing that I was thinking was, as you were talking about that, was probably you have a healthy understanding of what your wife needs too. So you can repay that favor, or whatever it is. Like it's not all just going one way. She's probably like that for a reason because you've filled her love tank.
Yeah, so my wife is, quality time is I do think that 5 love languages gives you a framework, right? And my wife needs quality time. She's like, we could give it all up, right? The houses, all the stuff we have. I just want your attention, right? And I'm like, would you give up the lodge? And she's like, well, maybe not.
Your attention at the lodge.
Would you give up the house in Florida? Well, maybe not that. What about her personal? Well, I'm like, okay. You don't really want to give this stuff up just for me.
Right.
Me and you broke in the middle of nowhere. You can say, honey, that's enough for me. But sure, this stuff sure does help us a lot.
Sounds romantic, but
sounds romantic. But and I joke with her a lot. But I got a tough wife, man. I mean, tough. I can, if there's one thing about my wife. She's interesting. When we were dating, and I've told very few people this story. When I was in a long-term relationship with a beautiful woman, she's like Miss Tennessee. She was older than me, and she come out of a bad marriage. She was not getting remarried. There was no hope of us getting married, and I was just going through the motions for like 2 years just to have somebody. And we broke up, and so now I'm single. And there's one person that is like debutante, blonde, on paper looks like that should be my wife. On paper, right? But I kept gravitating toward my wife for some reason, which is country girl, tough, and I'm like, wow, it's crazy. Like that's the girl I'm supposed to be with. That one over there, right? And so one night we went out and I was they were both there, and I was paying attention to this girl, the one that I thought on paper I was supposed to be with, right? But I was kind of dating my wife, right? And we got home that day, and my wife said, instead of getting mad at me, she said, "What am I not doing? What am I not doing that would cause you to pay attention to her?"
Wow.
Because if there's something I'm not doing, I'll change it, right? And I thought she really won me over that night, because most women would have been livid,
Right.
like, why are you paying attention to her versus me? Like, right? My wife took like responsibility and said, "What am I not doing? What can I do to be a better girlfriend?" Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in this for a long-term relationship with you, right? And that's a distraction to us. That is a direct threat to our relationship. She is. And I never forgot that, because her response, like, I don't know, that moment, like, won me over. Like, this woman is willing to fight for our relationship.
Pretty
right?
impressive.
And so that impressed me. That impressed me.
You guys interject if you got questions on any of this.
Well, no. So what I was gonna say is I thought it was really interesting whenever we came to your boot camp at your lodge, and I think where a lot of men struggle is finding their purpose in life, like what lights a fire in their belly, like what activates that prey drive, because when you start to figure that out, the work is something that you're more than willing to do. And I'm very similar to you. I grew up with a single mother that was very strong single mother. My father was not around and stuff. And she was the same way. Like, we're not going to sit here and cry and moan and complain about stuff. We don't say we're bored. If I ever said I was bored, I had a list of chores to do. She'd find things for me to do. But you made mention while we were there about how ultimately your purpose in life and what you do is not motivated by your wife and your kids.
Yep.
There's a higher motivation
Yep.
than that. And I think sometimes, and that hit me like a ton of bricks when you said that, because I think a lot of people lie to themselves about the false true inspirations in their lives that really make them want to drive in a certain direction and stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit and where that revelation, as you called it, like kind of came in?
Yeah, I have a philosophical difference with Simon Sinek's Start With Why. You know, he wrote Start With Why, incredible concept. Then he came back and wrote Find Your Why. And it was a huge phenomenon in the world. You got to find your why. Everybody said you got to find your why. And the reason you work hard is you got to find your why. Well, man, I've been coaching people for 28 years. I have qualitative evidence of observing top performers. And what I realized was that every time he said, find your why, I'm like, man, I don't even know my why. Why do I do what I do? Why do I work this hard? Why do I push this much? Why do I want to do, right? Like, why do I want to take it all the way? Why am I so interested in my potential? Like it was this confusion, right? Like, man, he's telling me it's almost like you feel dumb if you don't know your why.
Right.
And I said at a conference once, I was on a panel, and I said, I don't think you have to find your why to do something big in the world. I think your purpose kind of finds you in the pursuit of doing something, right? And I said, a chapter in my new book, maybe Screw Your Why. Or maybe that's a whole book, right? I think I could sell that book.
Yeah, I'd buy it.
But here's the deal. Here's why I knew I was onto something. I said it, man, and a dude jumped up. I mean, quick. And he's like, thank God. Like, man, I felt like such a loser all these years. And this is a dude who's producing, like, made millions of dollars. He's like, man, I felt so stupid because I didn't know my why. I hadn't found my why. And so I just disagree that you have to find your purpose to do something big. I didn't know I wanted to coach until I started coaching.
Right.
Why do I do what I do? I'm not doing it for my wife. And that's really what my wife said to me. She's like, I know you. You can tell people all day long, I do it for my wife and my kids. But she's like, you ain't doing it for us. So quit telling people that.
Yeah.
She's like, you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
There's something inside of you that is fed by what you do, right? By helping other people. There's an energy that comes back to you. And that's okay, right? So, but don't tell people you do it for us. Mm-hmm. She said, we benefit from you doing it. We got a nicer life, but that's not why you wake up every day. And it's true. I don't wake up every day to satisfy my kids, or right?
Yeah.
like there's something inside of me. So I started asking this question. I'd go to my top performers in my coaching program, the ones that were really producing, right? Millions of dollars of personal income. Why do you do what you do? What's your why? You know what they say? I don't know. I just do it.
Yeah.
And my buddy said to me one day, he said, man, you got something that you can't put in you and you can't take it out of you. You can't, right? It's the good Lord made you this way. So that's my kind of thought process on finding your why. All the people that listen to your show need to know it's okay if you haven't found your why. Yeah. Pursue something.
Right.
Pursue a curiosity. I was curious about speaking, right? Somebody said you'd be a good speaker, right? I was curious about writing books. I was curious about going out on the circuit. I was curious about, and when I pursued my curiosity, then it's like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
And I'm getting good feedback.
Right.
The market's telling me. So maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Maybe this is the revelation I've had.
And I think that's a great way to put that, because I think ultimately your action that you take on faith will eventually you'll find what really lights you on fire. And you mentioned something about you've gotten into a stage in your life now where legacy and what you leave behind is more important than just the daily grind of stuff. You're starting to think much larger. And I mean, some of that may be because of the success that you've seen and what you've been able to accomplish and stuff. And but I just thought that was pretty profound whenever you said that and we were talking about it, and I was sitting there thinking, man, that's good stuff, and some people need to hear that because some people are paralyzed and they're like, well, I don't have a why. What am I supposed to do?
Well, and it's like politically correct to say you're doing it for your kids.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that's the standard answer.
Yeah, the standard answer is
virtuous.
Right? Yeah, it's standard answer. I'm doing it for my kids, man, and my wife. This reason I wake up every morning is I do this for my kids.
Yeah.
And I just think they're lying. They don't know what else to say.
Right.
They don't know what else to say, so they say that because it looks good. Right. And I'm
socially acceptable.
Yeah, and I'm 44 years old, and I'm over the cotton candy, man.
Yeah.
I'm over the fluff. I don't have to, I don't have to say it. I don't need to say it. So that's what I would tell you on that.
I know that's helped me out. When you said that at the lodge, that's the first time I ever heard it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? That does make a lot of sense because I'm still in the mode of like I'm good at certain things and a lot of things, and the why is not. It's never been like, well, he shines at you and says, "Hey, this is what you're doing." But because we've been pursuing, and because I believe in connection and helping other people, here we are. Yeah. Like our story is just based off, small connections that led us to where we're at today. That led us to your lodge, and,
that's right.
And it's just really cool. How
it's probably a curiosity.
Yeah,
you guys were curious. You pursued something. You wake up and you go, man, this is good. We enjoyed this, right? That's kind of the way it works. And I write a lot about this in my book, This Ain't No Practice Life. How do you find your voice? How do you find your calling? Because I am a big believer in talents, usage of talents, demonstrated capacity of talents. I do believe people that use talents get more. I do fully 100% believe that. And I think here's the problem, though. Most people have not found their talent. Mm-hmm. So, we did a whole thing with you guys, primary skill, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you find your voice in life? And that's a big part of my Pray Drive boot camp. And man, people are like, you should see people. They break down and cry. They're like, man, I've wasted all these years doing something I'm not supposed to be doing just for the sake of doing it, right? That should be taught in every school in America, how to find your voice in life. Mm-hmm. What is at the intersection of your talent and your passion and your conscience and a need in the world. And that's what Covey taught me, is that leadership is finding your voice and then inspiring other people to find their voice. That's what it is.
And there's so many people that, we've all been there where we've either been in that rut of just doing something to be doing it or providing for our family or whatever we're doing. Or I've even been in a position where I thought I was doing what was my calling and my purpose. And I come to find out that a portion of it was, and I'm grateful for that because I was able to discover that. But the being fully engaged in that was not my purpose, and the way I've always recognized it is exactly what you talk about. Is like when you feel the energy come from it, like it almost feeds your soul,
right?
When you're kind of we talked about this in a past episode, when you're in your sweet spot, it just feeds your soul, and to me that's like that confirmation of keep going that direction, like that warmer, colder game, you play when you're a kid, so. That was a big one for me too, about the whole thing with your wife not being your thing, because I used to say that all the time.
Well, when you're doing what you were called to do, or what your talent area is, it's very obvious to people. It's the entertainer that you're watching on stage, and you're going, "This is exactly what they were meant to do." Right? I've had people come up to me after I speak and say, "This is what you're supposed to be doing." We can feel it.
It's the music behind the words, not just the...
Yeah, it's so the sad part is that a lot of people live their whole life and never find that.
Yep.
And more people don't find it than do find it. So the big problem I see is you don't really know what your skill is, your talent, and you certainly don't know how to monetize that talent. Mm-hmm. Okay? You guys could do this over and over and over, but never monetize it, right? And monetization is just an exchange. It's just, man, we're using our talent to solve a problem in the world. And there's an exchange there. There's a money exchange, right? And so a lot of people come to me, they want to speak, coach, train, lead, write books, but they don't know how to make money doing it. Then it becomes this frustrating side gig, right? I figured out at 25 years old that my work studying Covey and coaching kids, somebody would pay me 10 times the amount for that talent. Right, in another arena, and I didn't intentionally pursue that. It's like I just spoke and they paid me, and I'm like, dang, this is good. Like I could do this, right? Yeah. Like it turned me on to it, but I didn't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to be a speaker, and but I actually started speaking in high school, because I ran for a Beta Club office. I was in a National Honor Society. And and they picked a kid every year to run for national office, right? Funny thing is, the year before, I got kicked out of the Beta Club because I snuck down to Nancy Rhodes' room. Nancy was the prettiest girl in the whole school. And she called me to go down to her room on a Beta Club trip. I went down there. The sponsors found out. I got kicked out of the Beta Club.
Sound more like an Alpha Club to me.
Well, I mean, if you saw Nancy, like you don't, I was like, are you calling me? Like, you're Nancy Rhodes. You're like, yeah. She's like, come on down to the room. They're having
pray drive turned on.
Yeah,
exactly right.
And all my buddies, we were sitting
right.
in the room, and all my buddies were like, I'm like, my guys, I can't go. Like, I'll get kicked out. Like like somebody's going to find out, because they were having a little party down there or something. And my buddy's like, dude, it's Nancy
you can't
Rhodes.
not
man.
go.
Right? It's Nancy Rhodes.
It's worth it.
So the funny thing is, I go down there, we just all hang out, and then I get kicked out of the Beta Club or suspended. And then I come back the next year and run for national office and win. And I'm a national officer in the Beta Club. Well, guess what? The national officers traveled around the world and spoke at big conventions.
No.
So when I'm 15 years old, part of my job is I'm going to New Orleans and speaking. My very first speaking engagement at 15 to that group was 6,000 people.
Wow.
And I threw up before I went on stage.
I bet.
I was so nervous. And I had a speaking coach. So the coach, coached me. So isn't it interesting that at 15 I was doing that, and now at 44 this is what I do for a living? Right? Like that dude saw something in me. He's like, you have talent. Let me coach you. Let me coach that raw talent. And so now that's how I make my living, speaking, coaching, training, leading. Really was discovered at 15 years old.
Well, everybody needs a good coach in life, right?
Thank goodness for that dude, by the way, because he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He didn't get paid to coach me. He coached me because he saw something in me.
So that was a big thing. We spoke about finding a mentor in life, and we've talked about, have enough confidence about you to talk to somebody that's probably at a lot higher level than you are. Whether it's, hey, let me pay for your lunch. If you could give me just an hour, I just want to sit down with you. I'll pay for your lunch or whatever it may be. And one of your big things is everybody needs a coach in life. I have been fortunate, and so have these gentlemen, to be around some people that really operate at a very high level. But I was, mid-20s before that really happened. I had some good coaches in sports and stuff like that, but from just an example of saying, look, dude, everything's not easy peasy about life. You're going to have to push through some brick walls. There's going to be some things that you're going to have to do. And then you got to get disciplined in your life. And I think a coach can, from an accountability standpoint and from a aha moment kind of thing, you look at a lot of things from the outside looking in and go, oh my God. So I shouldn't rack up $40,000 in credit card debt. Like, wow, that makes absolute sense to me, but I needed somebody else to say it, So that was another thing I'd like for you to just kind of talk about, where that came from, that everybody needs a coach in life, that concept that you...
Yeah, the big revelation I had was as 6 years old. My mom was single, and she worked 2 jobs. She was trying to put herself through nursing school, so she worked these, I don't even know what all she did, shirt factory, you know what I'm saying, these odd jobs, and at night she'd go to nursing school. And so she would take me down to the local baseball field, and I would stay for hours, right? And I loved it. Like, I love the sports. And there was one woman down there who, it was odd because there was a woman coaching Little League Baseball, kind of a tomboy, right? And her name was Mickey Vincent. And Mickey was, man, she would just like tend to me and care for me and feed me. And I would stay with her for 6 or 7 hours just watching. She'd put me up in the booth, and I'd score the games, and then I'd call the games, then I'd umpire the games, like, And here's the revelation I had. And this is, I'm 44, so I'm looking back on this going, what did I really learn? I watched how coaches cared for other people's kids. And what I observed was, man, a good coach can really help you become something. Mm-hmm. They push you, and they challenge you, so why do so many people not have a coach? Because they see it as a weakness. Mm-hmm. Like, I think about you and I talking about it, right?
Right.
And I'm pushing you, and I'm like, look, man, you need to come to this thing with me.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
Right? You got to make an investment. It's a big investment to come and do it, right? But I know if I can just get those 3 guys there for a couple days, man, their life's going to take off.
Right.
They have raw potential, right? But it needs to be coached. You need information. You need to learn from somebody who's done it. Right. So, but man, making that sale. And if you guys ultimately go into the coaching business, you will see how hard it is to sell people. It's like they're so scared to death. What if I lose the money? Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. I get it. But it's the way we're wired. It's like we're taught as kids we need coaches, but when we become adults, we don't need a coach.
Right.
We got it all figured out, man.
We're all coached up.
And and it's like, oh, why would I spend money? Like, why would I spend money to get better?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And yet we drop $100,000 on college.
Yeah, $100,000 on college.
That we
and
borrowed.
yeah, I went to college for 9 years to pursue 3 degrees. I got all the way to my doctorate degree and to the dissertation, and submitted my dissertation 7 times. It was not accepted 7 times, and I finally just said, just forget it, man. I don't even need the credentials. I've already got all my hours of credit. I've already extracted everything that I need from this degree.
Exactly.
So just keep it, man. Just keep the money. I'm moving on. So my point is, I think to your point is that we can't see the picture when we're inside the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's playing at a high level, anybody, the very first thing they say is they had a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
They had a coach. They had somebody in their life who, right? Everybody, every major person in the world tells you got to get a coach, man. You got to have a mentor. And other people's like, I'm like, what do you not understand about that? Like they're telling you what they did. I had a mentor. I spent time with this person. Even if you could observe, like if you study mastery is I watch a master. I observe a master for X number of years. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 7 years. Then I practice what I see the master do for a period of time. Then I become a master. That is how most people become big-time people. Well, we live in such a cotton candy world. It's like, no, man, I want to jump from making $0 to $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you know back to that entitlement mentality?
Do you know how many free speaking engagements I've done in my life? How many rubber chicken circuits? How many Rotary clubs, exchange clubs? I went to one. The whole audience I thought was dead, like literally. And man, it made me mad. I'm like, "What's wrong with you folks, man? Did y'all not come to hear something?" And they're like, "No, we came for the chicken, man. We came to eat." So I've spoken at carnivals. Oh my gosh! I mean, I drove 4 hours one day to speak at a carnival. And I was up on stage. Of course, nobody's listening. People are walking by. They're looking at me like, we got a motivational speaker at the carnival? Like it was, like if you can imagine all the things I've done, kids, adults, I mean, it's just part of the cycle of getting better that a lot of people don't see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that 100%. And that's what people aren't willing to, for a lack of better words, get hammered, by the hammer to refine their sword or their edge, and it takes some beating to take a piece of metal and put an edge on it, and that was one of the reasons that we thought a good program for us was kind of a men reforged idea. Is it's time to sharpen your edge, but on the front side of it, there's going to be fire, there's going to be some hammering going on and stuff like that, and it's what you talked about, like the rubber chicken circuit, some of those situations, the rejection that you're inevitably gonna see. And I think that one of the things, and you said something like early on, and I think with a mentor, you have to see that they're human. Sometimes we put these people on a level and go, wow, that dude is just something like he just floats around or whatever, how does that happen? And then you realize that guy actually started out on a rubber chicken circuit, and he did that for a little bit and he earned his stripes.
Yeah.
And that's why he's able to be effective.
I'm laughing because when people watch me on videos and then they like at this boot camp, like Chris is one of the only local people at this boot camp. These people, right? These people have come from all over the world. I'm not talking like they've driven from California and Florida, Tallahassee. Like I didn't know anybody. Like I came down, at lunch, I told my team, like, I don't know like one dude here.
Yeah, when we were there, it was like Oklahoma, Arizona, Washington.
Yeah, which is so incredibly cool for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, but here's the deal: when people meet me after watching my videos, they think 24 hours a day, like I'm all jacked up. They're like, I got my brain drive activated, coach. And I'm like, well, I'm not always like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a normal person. Okay. But when I speak, people think my energy is always up here.
Yeah.
Right.
And look, I'm a regular dude, man. I hype up. I get up for energy. But to your point, they think I'm like that all the time. And when they meet me, there's like, oh, this is the dude in the videos, and he's always excited, and he's always in your face, and he's always like this. Well, we put people up on a pedestal. Like I have friends that are famous, right? And or somewhat famous. And they're just regular people, man. They got regular problems. They got marriage problems. They got kids problems, right? And when you know them, You know, I remember when I go places and do something big, then I come home and it's like, hey, sweetheart, I did this. You know what I'm saying? She's like, hey, go up and get the kids in the bed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like I remember David Farrar was the head coach at MTSU, and he beat Vanderbilt, and it was a huge win for MTSU. And he was speaking to this thing, talking about, man, we beat Vanderbilt, and we're so excited, man. I was on high, and I got home and I said, sweetheart, we beat Vanderbilt. And his wife said, did you get the rat poisoning? Because we got some mice we need to hear. Like on the way home, did you stop and get the right? So we're just people. But to your point, Josh, getting around big time people, their presence, their energy, they give off what Wallace D. Wattles called the impression of increase. Okay, if you go back and study the book, The Science of Getting Rich, he wrote it in like 1916. There's a chapter in that book that's incredible. And what he says is big-time people are people of advancement. They're moving, right? Their mere presence raises your level of play. And he called it an impression of increase. You have this feeling, when I'm around you, man, I'm going to do something big.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm with you, I feel better about me. And that's kind of person of interest. If you really look at person of interest is you're such a person of influence that I want to play up. I want to play at a higher frequency, man. You bring out the greatness in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a young lady that played on my team who was such a good person when I was a high school coach. And when people were around her, they were on their best behavior.
Yeah.
Because she brought out the best in them.
Yep.
And it was interesting. Her integrity, right? Even kids that struggled with language, because I had kids come from everywhere. One parent, no parent, two parents, rich, poor. And even tough kids that came from tough backgrounds, when they were around that girl, man, they always had etiquette. They always were, you know what I mean? It's like she just was a beacon of light to people. And I was always so impressed by that.
We were talking about that the other day with Tom Brady,
Oh, yeah.
just what he raises everybody's level.
It's crazy.
It's wild. I mean,
Love
he's
him
in
or
the
hate
Super
him,
Bowl.
yeah.
Love him or hate him. You can't argue with the results.
Yeah.
Right.
We love to hate on people that are successful.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because they're willing to do things we haven't been willing to do yet, I guess. So it
They
really kind of makes us
expose
feel
you.
better. So
They expose you.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of that, what you were just talking about, was confidence. Because when two people are together, the more confident the two will always influence the other. Is kind of the way that it works. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that confidence, especially men. I see nowadays when I talk to them. We've talked about posture in previous episodes and stuff like that. Like, stop walking around with your head down, man. Like, hold your head up. Even if you don't necessarily feel like you have anything to be super proud of, at least learn how to stand and stuff like that. You spoke about confidence was something that you had to overcome in the past. And, feel free to speak on this however you feel you need to. But you said you went through some episodes where you were not necessarily the happiest person in the world. Your confidence took a hit, and stuff like that. How did you develop that confidence? What were you doing that really started to go, you know what? I'm Coach freaking Burt.
Yeah. When I was in college, I came from a small school, and I was somebody, right? Like I had a lot of confidence, probably too much confidence, right? But in my little town, I was doing things, man. I was an athlete. I was doing this. I was moving, and then I went to college, and I was one of 23,000 people. And man, my confidence, I was so shy. I wore a hat. I sat in the back row. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't talk to girls. I was like. But I found confidence through coaching. When I was coaching, man, I was somebody, right? Because I was good at coaching. And so people treated me with respect, man. Like, that dude's good. He's good. Like, he's Coach Burt, right? It like gave me confidence. And then at 25 years old, I went through a terrible breakup. Turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. But I lost all my confidence. I was this confident dude. And then I gave my confidence to one girl. Right. And then it's like she just crushed it because I let her. Right. Because you can't take away something that I don't give you. Like, I gave her my confidence. Right. And so I went through depression, clinically depressed for 6 months, threw up every day. I mean, it was awful. But at the same time, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I studied confidence, right, during that period. And I'm like, how do I build an unshakable confidence? Right? How do you, and ultimately I study a lot of peace. I'm a faith-based person. Ultimately, confidence comes from faith, right? Mm-hmm. Your belief in God and knowing that, hey, that's where peace really is. But confidence can also come from the memory of success. It can also come from repetition. It can also come from long obedience in the same direction, right? You become more confident the more you work the muscle. And that's really ultimately where confidence comes from. So if we're looking at the whole person, knowledge, skill, desire, that feeds confidence. When you got a lot of knowledge, you're confident. When you got a lot of skill, you're confident. When you got a lot of desire, you got a lot of confidence. Okay? Without those things, you ain't going to have any confidence. You're going to be insecure. So I've been doing this for 28 years. So obviously in this area of my life, I'm very confident. But there's other areas that, I need work in. Right?
So with that being said, would you tell somebody to focus more effort and time into confident areas that they have a high level of skill? And maybe, because I've heard different things from people. I've heard people say, work on your weaknesses. I've heard people say, find your strengths and master your strengths, and that's where your I guess your confidence and your production and stuff are really going to go through the roof whenever you do that. People that focus too much on their weaknesses tend to be stuck in the mud. They tend to. I mean, what's your take on that? What do you?
Well, I mean, I think we're all given certain talents and abilities, right? And there's certain things I'm not good at. I can't fix a car, geographically illiterate, right? Like I can't cook. Now, you could say, Coach, spend all your time, man. Get with the real man and learn how to fix a car, okay? And I could do that. I could get better at that. I could get better at cooking. I could get better at whatever. But the reality is, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as, man, this is my gifting. Let me spend time doing this, and that will multiply. So I, it's like taking a basketball player and say she's not good with their left hand, but if she just practices for 7 hours a day, she'll be good with their left hand, right? Why not just put her in her strength zone?
Mm-hmm. Right.
As adults, why not get in environments we can thrive in?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of where I am in my life today, man. I want to coach people in a certain way, at a certain place, and you put me in that environment. That is my environment. You take me out of that environment, and maybe I'm, I did pre-drive in Scottsdale last week, and they'd see me speak. They'd see me do it like 4 times, right? The same people. And but at least 10 different people came up to me and said, man, that's the best I've ever seen it right there. Like you hit. And they said you're better in these smaller, intimate environments like this. Like that's your environment. And maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but for whatever reason, that's a good environment, right? So for me, maybe I need to think, man, I'm really good in these environments with this skill set, with this topic.
For sure.
But don't ask me to talk about something I'm not passionate about, which is a big mistake a lot of speakers make. You try to talk about something you're not qualified to talk about.
John Maxwell talks about that. Like if you're a 3 in something, you're probably the best you're ever going to be is a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
So, but if you're an 8 in something else or a 7, then you could get up to a 9. He's like, you're only going to move 1 or 2 spots each direction. So, spend your time focusing on increasing 2 spots from your giftedness, is like you were talking about. So
100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. So as we're this has been really good. And obviously, if there's more stuff.
That's good to hear.
I'm taking a bunch of notes over here, man. That's why I've been quiet. I'm just taking notes.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. Now, I had mentioned to you prior that because of what we learned, we bust on each other a lot in here. So that's
sure.
We hold each other accountable.
We're real brothers.
We're thick-skinned.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
A lot of what we learned at your $1 Million Coaching Summit was how to take an idea and to monetize it and to develop a program from it. And we've had a lot of listeners and followers over the last year and a half that have gotten to that level, like, hey, we love your stuff. We love listening to you. The concepts are great and we want to go deeper, but there's nowhere to go. So at your advice and making sure we're getting a return on our investment of that coaching, we've been spending a lot of time developing that Men Reforged initiative. Okay. And we're going to do some different things. And part of that is going to be something you had recommended, what you call like an evergreen system of having really 6 characteristics. We kind of dwindled it down to what we believe are the 6 major characteristics of a man to allow him or to develop him into somebody that is a productive person in society, that is really living in their sweet spot. So I'm going to just kind of go through these. And if you could you talked about one just now, we just talked about confidence. That's one of the 6. So we've kind of hit on that one, but if you could give us how important you think these things are, if there's any input on these things, whatever it may be. Number 1 is association. You kind of hit on that a little bit earlier too. Can you give us some more on how vital that is, who you associate with?
Well, like gravitate toward like. Association breeds assimilation. You know, exposure is an activator of prey drive. Who you're associated with, what you're learning, what you're observing is so critical to your growth. So to me, understanding the power of association, you know, and really, really placing yourself in a position to associate with people who are doing big things in the world, right? So, and that needs to be intentional, okay? You know, many years ago, I hung out with a gentleman, nice guy, and we would go to events together. And what I didn't realize is he had a really bad reputation, okay? And I thought this was good, man. We're going to certain events people are seeing, but people looked at me a certain way, and I couldn't understand why. And then after a while, they said, "Man, you do know that he's got a kind of a bad reputation, don't you? Right? And for this, and this." And I didn't understand how I thought that I was actually doing something good, but it was actually hurting my reputation hanging out with this dude, right?
Yep.
And you know, the power of association is now I'm associating. I mean, I was just in Scottsdale sitting talking with Sharon Lecter. They wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know, she sold 32 million copies, and her and her husband are counseling me and coaching me on how to license a concept. And then, you know, I'm just around people that are operating at a high frequency today, and that is very critical because they're expanding, they're opening up new pathways for me to go. And so I think you got to place yourself in a position, man. Men's groups, going to things, being around. You know, and I was thinking about this concept with you guys. Everybody would tell you they want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better dad. But then getting them to commit, right? Like I'm looking for something right now for me and my daughter to go to, like a weekend, but a facilitated weekend. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's with professionals like that do this. And I've got a guy in my network that does this for high performance people like me who work hard. And he creates these unique experiences for daddies and daughters and families. And, you know, so I'm looking for something like that, right? Like I want to go away and just me and her, and it's facilitated. And we work through exercises versus just hang out with each other. That's a whole market right there, by the way, right? So how do you grow and be a big star in the world without leaving your family behind? So for you, everybody's going to say, yep, I want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. Now, will they spend money to come get in a room with people? You guys are going to find out, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
And there will be a percentage of people that do. Okay. But the power of association is you got to sell. This is life changing, man. I tell people you get to that lodge with me, it's going to change your life. I believe that.
Yep.
That's association.
Yeah. Well, I've always heard 95% of your successes who you hang out with. And I agree with that. I think I can figure out the other 5 after that. Integrity is another characteristic. And we've kind of been hitting on that throughout this too, but integrity for you.
I look at integrity different than most people. To me, integrity is like integrated. And how do I live a whole life? Body, mind, heart, and spirit, right? There's integrity of the whole. And here's what I mean by that. I've been out of balance in certain areas of my life at different times in my life. I didn't have that whole. The word integrity means whole.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying? So for 8 or 9 years, I was totally disconnected from my faith. From 20 to 30, I was wild. You know, I coached at Riverdale. I was in bars, chasing women, drinking way too much. I mean, I was wild, man. I was good, right? Like I was a good coach, but I worked hard and I played hard, right? But my faith was all out of whack, right? And so I wasn't whole. Then I've been out of balance on my body, you know, where my physical self wasn't at a high level, right? And I wasn't whole. And then I've been out of balance in my relationships. So to me, integrity also means I am working on all 4 parts of my nature: my body, my mind, my heart, and my spirit. There is unity there. That is a different way of looking at integrity. But integrity is doing what you said you're going to do, man. And I live in a business world today where millions of dollars is exchanged. And, man, it's scary. The kind of things I see people do in business today, the deals I've been in part of, the evil. I mean, when money gets involved, man, people just act crazy.
Yep.
And, you know, I've been through some very bad breakups with business partners. I've been through mediations. I've been through lawsuits. I've seen the real ugly side of business. You follow me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when I first started getting bigger and really started generating revenue, you know, I never thought a person would take advantage of me. Like, I'm a trusting person. I see the good in people. Man, I never thought like people would try to take advantage of me, right? And sure enough, a few years ago, man, I went through some serious like people who really try to take advantage of me, right? Manipulation. And looking back on it, there were all these signs, and that's why I was most upset, because there was all these signs that these people were maneuvering, right? They were maneuvering to be manipulative, but I was so trusting, I didn't see it. And then you go through it, and you're like, there's really no integrity there, right? So I think it's important as you grow and do big things in the world to understand that.
That is one of the things that I think about a lot, and Wilson probably doesn't.
Not at all.
What? Oh, I'm like you. I'm very trusting.
Yeah.
The dog catcher comes and his tail's wagging.
Honestly, man, I think
Where's the ball?
I think everybody has good intentions in general, or they have some good in them, and that's what I look for.
100%.
And if I see it, I find it, I'm there. But I do have some discernment on being burnt or being gone through some of those things.
Yeah.
And now I'm a little bit like, okay, I see where this could go.
Well,
So-
what I would tell everybody out there is you need an exit.
Mhm.
And no matter what business deals you do, they all start off good. Everybody's got a good intention, right? Money gets involved. People act crazy. And what I found, because I did a whole month on conflict, right? And I was working through all this conflict in my life with these other people. And it was so powerful. Most conflict comes back to material things at the end of the day. Comes back to money, possessions. There's a threat to your status, right? You're afraid of losing something. Like, I worked this hard, I'm going to lose all this money. And it's kind of part of just doing something big in the world. One day I was watching this show with the Vanilla Ice.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
This interview with Vanilla Ice. I mean, he was sharp.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
Yeah.
And when Ice Ice Baby became big, he sold like 100 million albums. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And then somebody came out of the woodwork and said, "Oh, he stole the riff, man. He stole the riff from me."
Mm-hmm.
And they sued him, and he had to pay like $63 million to it. It's ridiculous. But that's what happens, right? When you start doing big things in the world, you're kind of a fountain, and there's drains. And these drains come along, and they want to like suck off what you're doing and be part of what you're doing. And they're everywhere, right? It's like, oh, that person's going somewhere, man. I want to latch on to that. It's just kind of human nature in some people. So I've learned some very expensive lessons. And my attorney's always like, man, that's just expensive tuition. The only person that wins there is you. I'm like, you're the one winning here, the attorney. You like expensive tuition.
Yeah. Hey, those are the ones that get hardwired, though, don't they? You don't forget those.
Yeah, but to your point, man, I'm so trusting. I'll still go down a path, and my wife is like, what are you doing?
Right.
Sounds like your wife.
Why are you trusting these people? Like, why did you get into that relationship with that business person? Like you didn't even, So I'm still guilty of speed and movement, and oh yeah, they're good. They would never do anything wrong to us. It'll all turn out good. And so sometimes I still get myself in trouble there.
I learned early to ask her. It's like, what do you think? And
Then they know.
Oh, they know. They have a gut feeling about them, and they'll go.
Intuition.
And,
Yeah.
Yep. So I tend to lean more with that now.
Yeah.
Before it was like, I'm just going. I know what I need to do, and I need to
Sure.
get accomplished. And I'm not going to ask questions. Let's go.
Mhm.
And I've learned a couple lessons too.
Me too.
So another characteristic of this program is going to be etiquette, which sounds a little more simple, but we, as you were just talking about, we want to build the full man.
Yeah.
And there's we see I don't know what, just a lack in just simple etiquette.
Yes.
And so we want to break it down to like the bare bones. So being at the level that you are, living a high frequency life and being around the 1%. What value do you see in that for somebody that's listening to this right now going, well, how important is it really to have good etiquette?
They say if you make a bad first impression, it takes 21 positive interactions to overcome the first negative one.
Wow.
Here's the deal. You ain't going to get 21 chances.
Right.
Etiquette is, to me, what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like if you study the 48 laws of power, you say this kind of weird, going in a weird direction here. The first law of power that Robert Greene talks about is never outshine the master. Etiquette is if you guys have an event, and it's a Shepherds of Men event, and you invite me to speak at it. Etiquette is I don't outshine you. It's your event.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying? I give proper credit to you. I'm only here because these three guys invited me here. I see people that break that law a lot. Now, let me tell you what happens. If I come to your event and I outshine you, you don't feel good about me. You guys walk away, and you may not ever tell me, but you say, man, we ain't never having that dude back again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've broken this law before. Before I saw that, I've gone to speak at an event, and it's somebody else's event, and I get up there and I put on a show or whatever, and then my team comes up and selling books, and you know what I mean? And I looked over one day, I spoke at an event for a mortgage originator, and I come in, and I was all energy, and then my team's trying to sell people things, and I look over at the woman who invited us, and she was like, I don't like this. So I don't break that rule, right? I always say when I get up there, thank you so much for the person who had me here. I appreciate you. And I always make them look good. But I can't tell you how many people in my business that breaks that rule. Like I just spoke at a conference this past weekend, you know, and people didn't get it. It's like, it's all about me. It's all about me. Well, that dude's the guy who got everybody here. Right. It's his event. And if he don't feel good about you, you're never coming back. Mm-hmm. So there's simple etiquette things that I think people don't understand. You know, I was raised, you know, my mom, we had to look like somebody when we left the house. Mm-hmm. You know, mom always said, what if you got in a car wreck, you didn't have any shoes on? You know what I'm saying?
Dirty drawers.
Yeah, but mom taught me, right? Like, you know, there's not that etiquette is just dressing, but it's being somebody. It's being appreciative. It's being respectful. It's, you know, it's acknowledging things. You guys moved this thing up for me today, right? But so I could spend some time with my daughter tonight. I want to acknowledge that. The right thing to do is say, thank you for doing that, man. I know it may have been inconvenience to you. So I see a lot of people that don't recognize that, right? And it's just be a good human, man. That's it. Just be a good human.
Well, you actually came on the show, so
well, thank you, and that's true. But
I think we're at least even, if not, still owe you something. And we talked about confidence. So the last two, one is work ethic. Yeah. You had kind of hit on briefly earlier. Huge thing in my opinion. I grew up in South Mississippi in the country, and from day one, I mean, it's just been like work ethic has been just sometimes beat into me, and sometimes just exampled into me. Yeah, you know, and I'm grateful for it. I wasn't always grateful for it then, but now I realize how much of a separator that is, especially in our current climate in this country. So
we become lazy and complacent. And in America, if you ask me as a coach, what's the number one thing we fight in America? It's a fight against complacency. Mm-hmm. We don't want to work hard. We want to get rich quick. We want the diet pill, but we don't want the diet. We want wealth without work. You know, we want pleasure without conscience. We want all of these things, but we don't want to pay the price. So work ethic is got to be instilled early in life. I think a lot of people that played for me at Riverdale learned the value of hard work. I think people that work with me now on my team know the value of hard work, of coming in and grinding it out. And that's the only way I know how to do it, okay? All of us work hard, and they were like, how do we make money easier? Like, this is going to kill me. Like, this is crazy, right? But at the end of the day, name one thing in your life that you've ever really accomplished that was big that you didn't have to work at. Yeah. I mean, I have friends that tell me they're lazy. You know, like my buddy Brad Lee tells me he's lazy. And I'm like, dude, man, you're up at 4-something in the morning. You're at the office on Saturday. You can tell me you're late. You may not work like I work, right? Like with a disciplined cadence like I do, but you ain't lazy. Lazy is laying around in bed doing nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Lazy is I'm broke, but I don't want to do it, right? I love people that are broke, but it's like, no, I'm overqualified for that job.
Right.
I'm like, well, you're broke, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
you ain't overqualified
you're
for
not
nothing
overqualified for anything.
Right.
But that's the world we live in. It's cotton candy, man. It's path of least resistance. And I think instilling that in me, and we get up, we show up, we grow up, we deliver, we don't whine, we don't complain, we don't make excuses. Like we want to instill a work ethic in our kids. Like that will last.
That participation trophy kind of environment that we've created has done more damage than good, and everything with stuff like that always has a seed of somebody was trying to do the right thing in their mind. They're like, you know, these kids that didn't get stuff, we need to make sure that they feel special. But it's like you said, I mean, name one great thing that you've done that you're proud of that you didn't work hard for.
Yeah.
Because you start to create that feeling of depression and stuff when you start to get things for free that are not, that you didn't work for. it starts to damage your psyche. And I think that's been a turn in our society today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's progress. And number one, I think if you take away man's ability to work, he becomes destructive. Look at all the things that have happened during this COVID period.
Mm-hmm.
More suicides, more alcoholism, more domestic violence, more, right? When you take away a person's ability to pursue their potential, right, that they get in trouble, man.
Idle hands. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, you leave me alone with nothing to do, I can get myself in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Trust me.
I'm gonna be busy doing something.
Yeah. So I just, it's better just get me involved in something.
Yep.
Right? I remember years ago, we went out to Nashville, and I had this big bus that I traveled on, and people had too much to drink, and so at the end of the night, I just told the bus driver, let's just take everybody home, and we went to like 4 different cities, and we got home at because we went to Hendersonville, and then we went over here, and I thought we were doing the right thing. And when I got home at like 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And my wife was livid. And she's like, no more honky tonking for you. Right? Because for some reason, my phone didn't work that night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right? It's like, you don't answer the phone. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, right? You get home at 7. She's like, you ain't going back to the honky tonk without me. Right? And she's right. I don't need to be in a honky tonk without her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Left to my own devices, man, we're all getting in trouble.
Sure.
So that's I don't know how I got work ethic from that, but hey, it's a good story.
So yeah, it is.
You didn't have something to do that night, so you went out and partied.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Which kind of leads into the number 6 in this Men Reforged initiative is vision. Having a clear vision for your life. That's really something that we want to help men figure out how to do. Which I guess part of that could be pray drive and whatnot.
It is. Well, vision taps into the spirit, and nobody can see your future except you. It lives in your own imagination, right? That's vision. It is applied imagination. How big the vision is determined many times based on the power of association. If you got little bitty friends doing little bitty things, you got a little bitty vision, okay? You hang around big time people doing big time things, your vision is expanded. So vision is a very important part. The Bible talks about, I think young men have dreams, old men have visions, or vice versa. But there's a vision. I had a vision of greatness factories. That's a vision I have, greatness factories around the country. These ain't easy. I mean, they're expensive for me to do. I don't have to do it. Like I could actually probably make more money not doing it. But I felt like God placed that vision in me. You're supposed to do this. So I also have a vision that I'm supposed to do things for kids, and I think it's probably going to be like a summer camp, like the camps I went to as kids. You know what I'm saying? Leadership, toughness, grit. Like I see me probably doing something at my lodge for kids. It's a 2 or 3 day deal just on success school, right? A lot of these things you're talking about, etiquette, right? Boom, boom, boom. Like these are things I think kids need. So just think about that.
Special guest.
Yeah,
number 2.
I got one of those. I understand.
Speaking of kids at the lodge.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Hey, are you here to sign up? Are you here to sign up for camp?
I think I just did.
I love it. I love it.
So how do you keep that vision clear? So some of the investments that we spoke with you about that Cam and myself are doing that are large investments and stuff are. Some of those things that'll give you butterflies. There's a lot of ins and outs. There's a lot of question marks that come with it and stuff like that. How do you crystallize that vision of the bigger picture and make sure that there's, you're always, if you're driving through Baltimore, you've got a map of Baltimore and you're not a map of Chicago.
Yeah, I think if it keeps coming back around to you, I draw my visions up a lot.
Okay.
I mental map it over and over and over. This is how I'm going to do it. This is like I draw it. If you looked at my iPad, it's like just pages or notepads of me drawing it up. This is what I'm going to do, right? And it just keeps coming back, man. Yep. Like now I've got clarity. And then I have big breakthroughs, big revelations. It's like, this is it. Like now I'm taking it deeper.
Right.
That's kind of how I think you do it.
Yeah, constantly. That's one of the things I talked to your wife while we were at the lodge because my wife calls me obsessive.
Yep.
She said, when you get locked onto something, like it's just there's nothing else going on.
Sure.
You're just constantly
Sure.
and that's all you talk about. That's all you do and stuff. And I don't know if that's just been ingrained in me from an early age or where it's come from. But that's one of those things that we have. Like she's like, sometimes I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
And for me, but I think from a vision standpoint, that's why some people are very clear on what they're going to do. And I'm glad that you said that. You mental map it. That's a great way to do it. And you physically draw it out.
I physically draw it up.
So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, over and over.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
A little less important point, but important nonetheless. I want to go back to something you mentioned about writing all these things down on your iPad or notepad or whatever. I just want to make sure Wilson heard that, because we were talking about his wide rule spiral bound notebook that he has here. We just want to make sure that
as long as you write it down, doesn't matter. I got
matter.
notepads like that. Like, you give me anything, I will write it on anything.
Yeah.
Well, I have a bunch of like flip over type, and I don't like them because you can't write on the backside of them.
Yeah.
So I bought this
like
coming to your lodge.
I love it.
And I wrote it all. I did. I wrote all this stuff down.
Frugality.
But I do have some like those and everything. But I have my own personal notes. And I didn't want to distract.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, writing it down just imprints it in the subconscious mind. I believe that 100%. You're telling your brain,
big time,
this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let your brain tell you. You tell it. This is what I'm doing.
I love that.
I'm going to hit
the
this
programmer,
number.
right?
Yeah. You're writing the program. You're the author. You're writing the book. And too many people don't get that. They never write anything down. They don't write their goals down. They don't write their targets down. Every night I write them down. What I'm doing. I am doing this. I am doing this. I am doing this. I'm telling my brain, this is what's going to happen, man.
You said something about that when we were at the lodge about author being the authority.
Yeah.
On something. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal to me.
Yeah.
When you're an author, you're the authority.
You are the authority.
Yep. Very cool. You guys got anything else for Coach before we wrap up?
That was great.
That was awesome.
I think it was awesome. Really, really appreciate you coming in here.
Yeah, man, this was fun.
This can be impactful to a lot of people that hear it. So we're really excited about it.
Well, I'm proud of you guys. You took a step on faith, right? You didn't know what you're getting with me, right? We're going to this lodge with this dude. You didn't know if we're going to trust dive off the top of the lodge.
Right.
We'd have been down.
Walk on coals. But my point is, you took a leap of faith. And you have a concept here. It's a powerful concept. I think it's a needy concept. So now it's just continue to take it deeper, man. And I could see you helping millions of men, right? That should be the goal.
That is
absolutely.
But everything big starts small, man. Every big star was once a little star that wanted to be big. So now you're giving people what's the next step, man. Now I have something. If you listen to the show, get involved with these guys.
Yeah,
it can change your life, man.
Yeah,
take the step.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it big time. Thank you for making some time, because we do know that you've been away from your family. That's such a huge deal to us. And I know you're going to have a blast with your daughter here in a little bit. But if you guys want to find Coach Burt, it's coachburt.com.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Search Coach Micheal Burt. You can find me.
You can find him for sure. He's got a big footprint, no doubt about it. As far as this goes, again, shepherdsof.men. You can find all our stuff. And just stay posted. We're talking about this Men Reforged program, and we're looking forward to maybe collaborating a little more with Coach on this and developing this process so you men, and honestly even some of you women that follow us, can go through this and kind of nail this stuff down. So we appreciate you guys listening. We're excited about your growth out of this. You've been part of the movement.